mid-30s about 10 years ago, I worked as security personnel at a cemetery located in a less than desirable part of the city. The necessity for someone on site 24/7 was apparent, as even then, we would encounter individuals sneaking in, spray painting graffiti on tombstones, or attempting to dig up graves. Most of these incidents occurred at night, which suited me well since I typically worked the evening shift from 2 to 10. Despite having to be alone for a couple of hours between 8 and 10, it was preferable to the graveyard shift. On this particular day, I received a warning about people randomly visiting the cemetery at odd hours and seemingly stalking the place. This had been going on for a few days, and the other workers were unsure of their motives. I was instructed to keep an eye out. By 6 o'clock, the other workers had left, leaving me alone. This part of my shift was always my favorite, as I didn't have to appear busy all the time. The job mainly involved riding around in a golf cart and ensuring nothing suspicious was happening. Around 8:30, I waited for the last visitors to leave and proceeded to lock up the front gate. While securing the gate, I noticed a group of people on the other side of the road, facing my direction as if observing me. After securing the gate, I parked my cart strategically to keep an eye on them. The group, 3 individuals from what I could discern, lingered for a few minutes before walking away. I drove around to ensure they weren't trying to enter from the sides but didn't spot them. Around 9 Weng, I parked near the front gate again and heard a sharp sound echoing through the field. I couldn't determine if it came from inside the cemetery or just outside. As I drove through, I noticed 2 figures in the distance, not the 3 I had seen earlier. When I approached, they noticed me, but instead of fleeing, they turned to face me. I confronted them, informing them that the place closed at 8:30 and that they needed to leave. One of them held a shovel, but they weren't close to any graves. I realized they had been digging in a clear spot nearby. Suddenly, I heard someone behind me, and the 2 in front started running while the one behind me went in a different direction. Attempting to chase the one running, I soon realized there was an issue with the cart. The 2 left tires had been slashed. I called the police, and upon their arrival, the group had vanished. However, we discovered a half-dug hole and a body bag near the fence. The man inside had been part of a gang, likely disposed of discreetly by the group, who thought burying him in the cemetery would go unnoticed. Although the perpetrators were never found, the plan's execution wasn't the best. I worked at a cemetery on the outskirts of my town, a small one covering just a few acres of land. After a year on the job, I found it incredibly boring, not because it was a cemetery, but due to the lack of activity. My boss's instructions were simple: be there, and if something happened, call the police. One Monday evening, after relieving my coworker from the day shift, I brought a cup of coffee to stay awake. The first hour passed with me watching cameras and scrolling through my phone. By 1 a.m., drowsiness set in and I fully fell asleep in my chair. I awoke to a metal creaking sound behind me, finding the door slightly open, swaying in the wind. Heart racing, I opened the door further, peering outside, but no one was in sight. I locked the door, considering it might have been a mistake, but an odd feeling lingered. Reviewing the footage, I saw a figure moving on the far end of the yard, prompting me to call 911. As I spoke with the operator, the man sprinted through the yard on the cameras, disappearing. The police found defined shoe prints, but couldn't trace the man beyond the cemetery border. Despite the scare, I continued working, but the experience made me wary of falling asleep at the cemetery. During our high school sophomore years, my friends and I, not known for our intelligence, engaged in some reckless activities. One night, we decided to explore the cemetery, unaware that it would turn out differently than our usual stunts. On a Friday night, 2 friends left early, leaving only me and my friend Dan. Despite not being tired, we didn't want to be bored at home, so Dan suggested exploring the cemetery near his house for a spooky adventure. With no better plans, I agreed. Arriving at Dan's house, we parked and walked to the graveyard's gate. Climbing over the short wooden fence, We felt a rush of adrenaline in the eerie darkness. Our goal was unclear, but walking through the cemetery without getting scared seemed like a plan. After passing several gravestones, Dan suddenly stopped. In the distance, we barely made out a figure next to one of the graves. As the person approached, we stood frozen, thinking we were caught by the cemetery keeper. The man, however, was not dressed like a graveyard keeper, but more like a homeless person. He questioned our presence, and Dan nervously explained that we were just exploring. The man, claiming to be the keeper, escorted us out. As we followed him, passing under a standing lamp, we froze again. The man's ragged clothes revealed he wasn't a graveyard keeper, but possibly homeless. As he turned to face us, anger in his eyes, Dan and I ran. The man chased us and we managed to jump the fence, hearing his frustrated punches on the wood. We never went back, suspecting the man might have had ill intentions. Fortunately, we escaped unharmed, learning a valuable lesson not to return to such risky adventures. In the heart of a quaint little town nestled between rolling hills, there stood an ancient cemetery enveloped by a dense forest, famously known as the Whispering Grove. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the mystical aura that surrounded this burial ground, claiming that the spirits of the departed whispered secrets to those daring enough to enter. One moonlit night, a group of adventurous friends decided to put the legend to the test. Armed with flashlights and nervous laughter, they stepped into the cemetery, the air becoming noticeably colder as they ventured deeper. A soft murmur like the rustling of leaves began to envelop them. Unseen hands seemed to guide them among the tombstones, leading them further into the heart of the Whispering Grove. As they approached a particularly ancient section of the cemetery, the whispers intensified. The friends, now trembling with a mix of fear and excitement, stumbled upon an old, eerie mausoleum. Cautiously, they pushed the heavy door ajar and entered the dimly lit space. Inside, they discovered an ancient diary resting on an ornate pedestal. The worn pages revealed a tragic love story between two souls laid to rest within the Whispering Grove. The friends were captivated by the tale, a narrative of love lost and promises unfulfilled, written by a grieving widow who had never moved on. As they read, the whispers around them gradually ceased. The air, once thick with secrets, lightened. It was as if the spirits had found solace in sharing their stories with the living, leaving the mausoleum with a newfound respect for the mysteries hidden within the Whispering Grove. The friends emerged into the moonlit night, forever changed by the spectral secrets they had uncovered. In the quietude of a moonlit night, Emily, a dedicated caretaker, patrolled the cemetery with the familiar jingle of keys. As the clock struck midnight, she prepared to lock up the gates when an unusual sight caught her attention. A mysterious figure, translucent yet filled with sorrow, lingered near a weathered grave. Trepidation giving way to curiosity, Emily cautiously approached the ethereal presence. To her surprise, the apparition seemed more forlorn than menacing. The spirit, clad in a tattered soldier's uniform, communicated not through words but through a haunting gaze. The soldier spirit revealed a heartbreaking tale. He had perished far from home and sought his lost letters, the last connection to his past. Touched by the tragic narrative, Emily felt compelled by compassion. Together, they combed through the cemetery, uncovering letters scattered among the graves, each holding a piece of the soldier's past. As the final letter was returned to the soldier's spectral hands, a sense of peace washed over the graveyard. The apparition, its countenance now serene, offered a grateful nod before gradually fading away. Emily, standing alone in the moonlit cemetery, felt an unseen presence lingering, a guardian grateful for the caretaker's act of kindness. From that night on, the cemetery seemed to embrace a quiet, protective energy, as if watched over by a midnight guardian, thankful for the solace found in the company of the living. In the heart of a picturesque town, there was an ancient cemetery surrounded by tales of enchantment. Every year on the anniversary of its founding, mysterious lanterns would appear, illuminating the night with an ethereal glow. Locals spoke of these enchanted lanterns as the spirit's way of celebrating the memories of the departed. Emma, a curious historian with a penchant for folklore, became fascinated by the legends surrounding the cemetery. One year, she decided to spend the night within its hallowed grounds, hoping to witness the magical event. Armed with a notebook and a lantern of her own, she settled near a weathered tombstone as the sun dipped below the horizon. As the first stars appeared in the night sky, a gentle breeze stirred the air, and the atmosphere tingled with anticipation. Suddenly, the graveyard came alive with soft whispers, as if the very earth was communicating with the spirits resting beneath. To Emma's amazement, the ground beneath the tombstones began to glow, and soon, a procession of spectral figures emerged. Each carried a lantern, casting a mesmerizing radiance that painted the cemetery in hues of silver and gold. The air resonated with hauntingly beautiful melodies, a symphony composed by unseen hands. The spirits, dressed in attire spanning the ages, moved gracefully through the cemetery, their lanterns flickering like eternal flames. Emma, both in awe and reverence, observed the ethereal celebration. It was as if time itself had momentarily bowed to the spirit's eternal dance. As the night progressed, the spectral procession gradually faded, the enchanting lanterns dimming one by one. The cemetery returned to its silent, peaceful state, leaving Emma with a heart full of wonder and a notebook brimming with a story she could scarcely believe. From that night on, the town's folklore gained a new chapter, shared by Emma as a testament to the magical moments hidden within the quiet embrace of the ancient cemetery. The enchanted lanterns became a symbol of connection between the living and the departed, a celebration of memories that transcended the boundaries of time.